Rugby World Rankings at the end of the Six Nations 2025, folks. France have finished on top of that competition, but why aren't they up a bit higher in the World Rankings? How do the sides compare to when they came into the Six Nations as to now at the end of the comp? Plus, how have things been moving around with some of the other sides, the likes of Georgia, Romania, Portugal, all these sides in the Europe Rugby Championship? We'll go through them, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. So at the end of the Six Nations, the top two countries are now South Africa and New Zealand, which is a change from the start of the competition because Ireland went into the Six Nations second. But over the course of the Six Nations, especially with that loss to the French at home, they finished down in third. They did take points from the Italians in their win, but not a heck of a lot. They gathered 0.12 points from the Italians, so they have narrowed the gap slightly on the All Blacks, but ultimately they fell below the All Blacks in the Rugby World Rankings. Some people were a little bit curious as to how that happened last week, because that's when the All Blacks passed the Irish. Like, how can the All Blacks do this? Sneaky All Blacks, not even playing. How do you guys go up? Sometimes that's just how the Rugby World Rankings work. If you drop below another side, they take your spot. Like, for example, this week, Uruguay has gone up into 17th from 18th because Portugal has dropped below them. Uruguay likewise not in action. So if a side drops below you, happy days for you, even if you didn't have to do anything. So yes, Ireland gained some points from the Italians, but finished the competition lower than when they started. France are still in fourth, which is what they went into the Six Nations in, and they come out in the same spot. Didn't get anything from the win over Scotland, which may seem counterintuitive because that's the game where they won the trophy and they won the game pretty comfortably. But remember, with the World Rankings, you can't take points from anybody who is more than 10 points below you. France is on 89.51, Scotland's on 82.36, which is less than 10, but the home side scored at +3 means the gap is more than 10. So despite the Six Nations trophy, despite the win, nothing for the French. If it feels like the French are a little bit undervalued world rankings generally, I would partly point the finger to the fact that the French squad is forced to change things up, especially during the mid-year internationals. In recent years, they went to Argentina last year. They lost one of their games, which they may not have lost if they'd taken their full-strength team. Another year, they went to Japan in their mid-year tour. Took a less than full strength side, but they still managed to get wins. But you're not going to take points from Japan because the gap is, again, too much. They played Australia a few years ago and, again, didn't take the big guns. So the series maybe wasn't as kind of straightforward as it might have been if they had taken, all their top players. So that's just the way it works with the top 14 in their long season and players needing to have a rest. But, yeah, France probably loses out on some World Rankings points because they lose games they might otherwise win during the middle of the year, because all the games that you play at test level count for points. Argentina still there in fifth, and England finished the competition in sixth, which is one spot higher than when they went into the competition. The Scots and the English swapped places throughout the course of the competition, which is an important one, as I've mentioned dozens of times now, because sixth is the top seeding spot for the Rugby World Cup draw, which will be held after the November tests and before the Six Nations, either the end of this year or the start of next year. So you want to be in the top six if possible, so you get top seeding. So England are there right now, and they took 0.36 off the Welsh. The Scots didn't lose anything with their loss, but they remain in seventh. We got the Australians in eighth, the Fijians in ninth, and then the Italians in 10th, who, as I mentioned, did lose minor kind of points to the Irish. The Georgians are there in 11th. They won the Rugby Europe Championship, so congratulations to them. They beat the Spanish, and they had a similar situation to the French, that in their final, which is the game that won them the trophy, they still didn't take any points. They were on 74.69. Spain are on 67.34, which is less than 10. But with the Georgians being at home for the final, scored at +3. So, yeah, it's the same for every team. Some people like to read into things about the world rankings as some nations are getting favored than the others. As far as I am aware, the rules just apply the same to everybody. So yeah, Georgia get the trophy, but no points. Wales dipped closer to Japan with their big loss to England. They've lost 0.36 of a point. They are ahead of Japan, but they're going to be touring Japan in the middle of the year, which will be fascinating because Wales, if they lose, could potentially drop down into the third seeds of the next World Cup draw, which would be pretty unfathomable. But hey, this is where we're at. Now, for the rest of the sides, outside of the kind of tier 1 sides, Spain is up despite losing to Georgia, mainly because Romania beat Portugal away from home and stripped some points from them. So the Portuguese have kind of plummeted a couple of spots, which sees Spain and Uruguay pass them. Romania gained some points. And Belgium flogged the Netherlands away from home. So they keep their Rugby World Cup hopes alive, and they make it to my whiteboard. Welcome, Belgium Rugby. You are, first appearance on the whiteboard. So they are up, if my calculations are correct, by using the website that lets you put in the results, because World Rugby hasn't updated these results just yet. But up into 22nd, if I am not mistaken, with their win over the Netherlands. And they'll be going into those kind of playoff matches to get those final few Rugby World Cup playoff spots. The Netherlands dropped with their result, and then the Swiss, if you missed it, beat the Germans. Their jersey's even up there. How often do we get the Swiss jersey in a rugby video? Not that often, but the Swiss, with a last-minute drop goal, beat the Germans in their Rugby Europe Championship match as well. So plenty of action going on in the Tier 2 competition as well. But that is how the Rugby World Rankings shift. Ultimately, at the end of the Six Nations, Ireland is down a touch. The French remain in 4th. England took that all-important 6th spot. The Scots are down to 7th. Italy still in 10th. And the Welsh down into 12th. We'll see things, how they develop as we get kind of towards the mid-year tests. But plenty of club rugby to go between now and then. So we won't be looking at the Rugby World Rankings for a while. But with the World Cup draw edging ever closer, it will certainly be one to monitor. You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Together.